This inmate is a no-joke. He takes down a gang of over 5 fellow inmates just within a blink of an eye. Even if his boxing tactics and ability is unmatched, Bone isn't a prison material. He is on a mission to fulfill a promise he made to a dead friend of his. Bone's underground fighting skills are unmatched, and nothing can stand his way until he executes his plan. He defeats every opponent, making so much money in the process, but, well, this is not exactly what he wants. The opening scene starts from the bathroom, with a group of over 5 fellow inmates trying to take down Bone. Bone's friend, Danny, is scared of the many gang, and he immediately warns him to flee and take off before Jason and his gang members beat the hell out of him. However, Bone is aware of their coming. He is very much ready to teach them a lesson of their life. Jason asks Bone to submit to him, but to his dismay, Bone gives him and his gang just 5 seconds and says, in a count of up to 5, they should be gone lest they drink from the bottle of his wrath. Well, Jason answers him with a laugh, but he probably doesn't know who he's dealing with and the kind of terrible mistake he's making. Within seconds, Bone dismantles them like he's folding laundry, delivering a beatdown so brutal that every one of them will live to remember. He, however, doesn't kill them, but tells Jason to take heed and never try to mess with him or anyone close to him ever again. In the next scene, we see 2 young boys who seem to be in the business of giving this old man Roberto trouble. After telling them to vamoosh, these young indisciplined adults abuse him greatly just before they depart. Fresh out of prison, Bone is released and he goes to Los Angeles and steps into the world of illegal street fights, where the only rule is survival. Bone goes in search of a place to stay and he gets to Tamara's home. But since Tamara is in the business of caring for kids, she has got rules for every tenant renting at her home. She doesn't accept gangsters, no women at her home or anywhere close by, so Tamara asks Bone to try elsewhere just in case he isn't okay with this rule, but to her surprise, Bone is quite fine with it. He gives Tamara her rent due just before taking the room. To survive the streets of Los Angeles, Bone needs a gig, a paying gig for that matter. Luckily for him, here, money-hungry gamblers gather to watch men pummel each other in exchange for money. The street fight is headed by James. He's the type of guy who wears expensive suits, oozes arrogance, and has a serious case of "I think I own the world" syndrome. James is one dude you don't want to mess with. But wait a minute. Meet Pinball, a street hustler and street fight promoter with persuasive words. Pinball may not have the charisma and strength to fight, but he surely has the words to make money. In the presence of James, Bones is also secretly watching one of the games. He watches as the Hammerman takes down and fatally injures a fellow fighter. This seems to be the only way to survive here, but Pinball must declare him the winner. He finally hands over the money to James. Bone wastes no time, so he ambushes Pinball in his vehicle. He has to convince him to set up a fight for him, but Pinball is so insecure to accept it. Desperate for a mode of survival, Bone gives Pinball $260 to arrange for him a fight with anyone, with fair terms. If he wins, Pinball gets 20%, however. If he uses his own money, Pinball gets 40%. This deal sounds undeniable and pleasing to Pinball's ears, and he agrees to organize a fight for Bone. Before the fight, Bone is introduced to James and his entire team by Pinball. James tries to intimidate him, but he's not afraid of no man. He merely behaves unbothered by James's act. In his first underground fight, he faces a towering beast of a man. Huge muscles, veins popping, probably a guy who eats tires for breakfast. The bell rings, and within seconds, Bone delivers a combo so fast that even the camera struggles to keep up. The giant goes down like a sack of cement, and suddenly, Bone is the most dangerous man in the room. Pinball likes Bone even more than before. One of James's boys takes the video and shares directly with him. Now, he knows Bone is a bad dude. You don't want to mess with him. Besides money, Bone seems to have other greater interests. Well, we are about to find out. He asks Pinball about Angela Soto, a wife to his fellow convict who was slaughtered by the inmates. As for James, he isn't just running fight clubs. He's got other side hustles and plans. He works for a shadowy syndicate, and tonight, he goes to take down Franklin McVeigh, a man so powerful that he makes villains in action stories look like school bullies. Franklin is now gone to a journey of no return. Meanwhile, even if Teddy is one of James's boys, he gets deeply intimidated as James scares him to attempting to release his scary and angry-looking dog to him. He further reminds Teddy that cursing and profanity isn't sane, and he that uses it is no gentleman. Convinced by the great stamina and Bone's abilities, James wants Bone to fight for him. But there's a problem. Bone isn't just some muscle-bound gladiator chasing money. He's got a mission, a promise. And that promise involves tearing down James's empire from the inside, but he must make calculated moves. Back at Tamara's home, Bone is playing chess with the old man, Roberto, just before the two stubborn juvenile come to mess with the old man. They seem not intimidated, however. When they see Bone, they both take off never to come back. After that, Bone's partner and manager, Pinball, has come to pick him for a fight. Tamara seems unapproving of Bone's company, but he must have stuffs done. He can't give up with his plans just yet. Just before Bone's fight, Verita is seen mercilessly beating a colleague. Now, Pinball approaches Tattoo, and he proposes $5,000 for his best fighter against Bone. After hearing that, Tattoo releases the Golden Grill fighter just before Bone gives him only a single punch and he was down. The bet even got crazier when Tattoo agreed to double the fighters to take Bone down. To their surprise, Bone took down all of them, even more than 3 at a go. The game got pretty funnier when Tattoo refused to pay Bone's money. Pinball goes back home with more money than they thought. With each fight, Bone climbs higher up the underground food chain. His fighting style is pure devastation. Flawless technique, lightning-fast strikes, and zero wasted movement. Every opponent who steps up ends up kissing the pavement. The audience loves it. James, however, is starting to realize that Bone isn't just here to fight. He's here to destroy, but as a businessman, he must find a way of making money out of him. Bone practices more and more to perfect his martial arts mastery even better. From the fights, he accumulates more and more money for Pinball. This can be evident in the new upgrade Pinball makes to his ride. After a crazy fight, this challenger gave Bone a hard time. But after a bong fight, Bone finally wins. When he reaches home, Tamara is confused. She doesn't know what could have caused the terrific injuries that Bone sustained. When she asks Bone, unfortunately, he doesn't say a thing. Nonetheless, Tamara goes ahead and bandages him just before confessing to him that she has observed him several times practicing Tai Chi. Bone goes ahead and teaches Tamara some Tai Chi. James is purely heartless. You can see him chasing a lady just before running over her. This guy has no respect and compassion for humanity. Roberto, the old man who stays at the same place with Bone, watches him as he gets his job done. Fast forward, the Hammer Man is being prepared for a fight with Bone. This is one fight everyone is looking forward to. With the help of some injectable drugs, Hammerman gets facilitation, and many think he will crush Bone. This doesn't happen as they thought. Bone beats the big Hammerman with just a few blows as James watches. James is furious just before Pinball declares Bone as the winner. However, he has no choice but to give Pinball his money. He hesitates but later gives Pinball the money. James further approaches Bone and appreciates him for exhibiting his great talent just before he invited Bone for a business proposal. At James's home, Bone is accompanied with Pinball. James asks Bones where he got the fascinating fighting skills from, but he seems a little unbothered by James' many questions. He provokes Bone and tries to intimidate him with words and a few street knife skills. James shows him many exhibits and asks him to fight for him, but Bone is so reluctant to fight for him. Of course, knowing the kind of man he is, however, Bone tells him he will think about the idea before committing. In an attempt to convince Bone, James hands over Angela Soto to him as a relaxation gift. But out of respect he has for Angela's dead husband, who was Bone's great friend, just before he was slaughtered by the inmates, Bone has hidden intentions to reach out and revenge to James. He had promised to take care of his family as soon as he gets out. After all the catch-ups and emotional stories, Bone tells Angela to return to James and pretend as if they had the very best of their night. But to trust him as he works his things out, but to his surprise, James lets him go with her. Bone then takes Angela to a safe place just before returning back home. Meanwhile, James offers Price with a business proposal. He offers him $5 million for him to arrange a fight. He believes if Bone wins the fight, he can make a lot of money. Price is hesitant, however. After a few negotiations from James, he finally agrees to vouch for him, but here is a little problem. James hasn't got a feedback from Bone yet. He has already arranged for a fight and paid the $5 million. Back at Tamara's home while Bone and Tamara are getting sensual, then comes the final showdown. James is in the house and he causes a crazy scene. "What are you doing here?" Bone asks him. James is desperate to control and convince Bone to fight for him. He tries all tactics to lure him into a fight for him. He even kidnaps the people Bone cares about, forcing him for a fight. But wait, Bone has a plan. Looks like the intimidation wasn't enough. Therefore, James sends his boys together with the giant hammerman. They beat Pinball and destroy the entire place, however. Bone saves them. Someone brings a 411 intel to James about Angela's whereabouts. Now James sends other boys there, just to realize it was a setup. Bone and Pinball beat and defeat all of them. When James calls for a confirmation, Bone picks the call and reaffirms he's coming for James. James is furious and sends a GPS location to him. Bone pretends to not know his plan and follows him. The stage is set and there must be a fight. Just before that, with the help of Pinball, Bone gets some video intel by luring James into making some deep confessions. The last fight is nothing short of legendary. Bone faces James's top fighter, a monstrous, seemingly unbeatable warrior. At first, it looked like he was going to defeat Bone. This suit guy's hits are brutal. The stakes are sky high, but Bone is Bone. And when the dust settles, he stands victorious, but in an attempt to get back to James, Bone wants him to lose all his money, therefore, he makes the opponent win. James is so furious after this. Oh no, now it's James's turn to face judgment and show Bone how angry he is. And Bone, he doesn't need a fight to win this battle. He takes James apart with cold, calculated precision, breaking him mentally before delivering a final bone-rattling knockout. With his mission complete, Bone walks away. No celebrations, no victory speeches, just a silent exit into the night. Because that's who he is. A warrior, a man of honor, a human wrecking ball with a heart of steel. Bone is now back at home. Angela learns about James's arrest, and she goes to pick her son. Tamara is excited and feels emotional for Bone, but Bone leaves as his mission is done. Pinball is outside waiting to drop Bone, but this time, Bone turns his offer down. He decides to walk instead. James is ruined. McVeigh? He's left wondering how a single man dismantled his operation in a matter of days. And the underground street fighters? They'll never forget the legend of Isaiah Bone. Blood and Bone is more than just an action-packed story. It's a showcase of pure martial arts mastery, a tale of justice in the shadows, and a reminder that sometimes the quietest man in the room is the most dangerous. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and share your thoughts about this film. See you next time. Peace.